So welcome, and thank you so much for taking out time from your schedule to be here for this call, and also to those of you who are listening to the recording after our live event this evening. So you are joined in and tapped into how to stay on your game, on your yogi game, and to keep loving what you do. I've been teaching yoga for over 17 years and have definitely gone through many different phases of yoga teaching. And I think it's inevitable as yoga teachers that we're not going to love teaching all of the time. In fact, there's definitely been times in my career and colleagues that I've spoken to that have been teaching for longer periods of time also where you get downright frustrated and want to give up and want to walk away. And in fact, I was in that place a couple of years ago, wanting to kind of throw in the towel and just give it all up. I'd had enough of so many different things, and we'll talk more about that as we go through the class this evening. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to kind of give it one more shot at just really being true to what is right for me. Over the years, I've taught power yoga, I've taught meditation, I've taught workshops and retreats, all sorts of things. And I thought I would bring together my love of both yoga and Ayurveda and create an Ayurvedic yoga teacher training, or a portion of it that's for teachers. So it's an advanced module essentially. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do this and see if there's a response. And if not, I don't know, I'll become an accountant or something. No, I wouldn't do that. I'm terrible with numbers, but something very different than what I've been doing. I'm also an Ayurvedic practitioner, and I love working one-on-one with clients. So that is definitely fuels me on one level, but the yoga teaching had waned, and partly because of, I think, the scene, so to speak, in Vancouver and in the West, it doesn't always resonate with me. My yoga background is very traditional. I studied at the Bihar School of Yoga, and essentially my yoga training was very rooted in karma yoga, which is selfless service, and really using our karma yoga as meditation, as training for our mind and our emotional bodies. And that was a lot of my training. My deepening of asana came in many other ways, and through a lot of my own just inner practice, my own sadhana and study. And my background's also in contemporary dance. So I've had definitely a lot of body awareness and very good naturally at alignment and very clued into alignment-based asana as well. So that's kind of how I came to be here today speaking to you all. And my passion for both yoga and Ayurveda, it still burns bright. And I'm also just kind of doing what feels really right to me these days. And I feel that, the world doesn't need another yoga teacher. We have so many yoga teachers, but what the world does need are teachers that are willing to step up, to live from a place of authenticity and to teach what they know is true in their hearts, not just what is popular or what the studio they're teaching at is pressuring them into teaching, but really get clear about what are we doing in our yoga practice and in our yoga teaching. Are we helping or are we harming? When we come back to the roots of ahimsa, and we can really look at how is our yoga practice benefiting people or not. So I would love to start this evening's class with just a short settling practice to bring all of our energies together. Even though we're working virtually here, we're still connected on an energetic plane. So I'll ask you please just to turn off phones, really give yourself this time. We've got an hour together this evening, and if as much as you can turn off other distractions, be really present here. Just show up for this time instead of multitasking, and see if we can just unitask for this short time together. So please find a comfortable seat, either on the floor, in a chair, wherever you might find yourself right now. Roll your shoulders back and down. Close your eyes. And notice immediately as you close your eyes in these first moments where the attention goes. Is the awareness up in the head? Does it get pulled to a part of the body? And take a few deeper, slower breaths. Allow these breaths to be the bridge from your external busyness of your day and moving into the internal, into the quietness of your nervous system, your inner workings of your mental and emotional bodies, and simply checking in with how you are right now, how you're showing up for this session together. And welcome all of you. Bring every part of however you're showing up. If you feel frazzled, if you just ran in the door, if you're hungry, if you're tired, just let it all coexist. And know that this too shall pass, this will change. And again, focus on the exhalation for these next few breaths. Strengthening Apana Vayu, that downward moving energy, that downward moving force. With the out breath, allowing us to ground, to center. Relax your face. Consciously allow the shoulders to soften, the muscles of the back, the diaphragm, the organs. Allow everything to be held by the structure of the skeletal body so that your muscular system can simply relax off of the bones. Nothing gripping, tightening, tensing. Give yourself permission to be still, to be silent, and to relax. And it is my intention that our time together this evening be for the highest good of all, that only the highest good comes forth, that we may grow together, that we may evolve together, that we may all walk away and take something with us in our hearts that truly benefits our life and our well-being, and perhaps even helps our students, our family, our community also. So bring your focus into your heart center, into Hridaya Kesh. Visualize a flame, a light at your heart, and set your intention here. It can just be one word. How would you like to feel when you walk away from our call this evening? What would you like your experience to be? What qualities would you like to amplify in yourself, in your life? And then keeping the eyes closed, rub your palms together for palming. Create some heat in between the hands. And then placing the hands over the eyes, look out into the warm darkness. This practice of palming is so good for the nervous system, as the eyes are the only exposed part of the nervous system. So if you're working on a computer or driving, this is very good. Once the heat is faded, do this one more time. Just rub your palms. And then placing the hands again over, looking out into the warm darkness. Maybe even relaxing with a sigh or sound. And then when you're ready, you can slowly, slowly open your eyes. So welcome again. Doesn't that feel better? Just brings us all together. We can start in the same place. So some of you I know already, some of you are new, and thank you for joining, and thank you for risking your time with spending it with me and with all of us this evening. Just a kind of a quick background, give you some context as to why I'm speaking about what I'm speaking today and the journey that I've been through. So the short story of it all, as I mentioned earlier, I began my journey studying contemporary dance at Simon Fraser University and got injured very early on. And that took me on a journey through New Zealand, in fact, which ended up, I met a Swami there that said, oh, you should come to the Bihar School of Yoga. And I was like, yep, okay. I knew it was the right thing to do. And I ended up in India studying yoga. I wasn't looking for a guru. I wasn't looking to be a yoga teacher, nothing really. I just was following the call of my heart at that time. And a lot happened in that 6 months of living at the ashram for the first time. I shaved my head. I got my spiritual name, Madhuri. My consciousness really expanded in a large way. I was exposed to a lot of different things, a lot of chanting, a lot of kirtan, a lot of satsang, a lot of karma yoga, and a little asana thrown in there as well, lots of yoga nidra. So it was a full-on 6 months of daily ashram life, and I loved it. In fact, but when I got back to Vancouver, I felt very disconnected from what yoga was here and what I had experienced. And at that point in time, this was like 16 years ago. And at that point in time, believe it or not, there weren't yoga studios on every corner. There was only a couple yoga studios in town. And I felt quite isolated. I felt quite like I didn't have a community. I didn't have anyone that had been through a similar experience that I knew. So that was very, very difficult in a way. But I began teaching and loved the teaching and was sharing what I knew and continued to do so to this day. One of my journeys to India, a few years later, I got very, very sick there. Didn't realize the extent of how sick I was and continued traveling through Asia for another 8 months or so. And by the time I got home, I realized I was completely exhausted. I could not walk up a flight of stairs without feeling winded. And I had gone from dancing like 8 hours a day and being so athletic and full of vitality to just feeling like someone had pulled the plug on my energy, and I was exhausted. And I looked fine, so my family didn't quite get it, and I was young and didn't have the understanding of Ayurveda, of naturopathic doctors, of Chinese medical doctors. So I ended up at the foreign disease specialist at Toronto General Hospital, waited months for the specialist appointment, and when I finally got in to see him, he just looked at the piece of paper, read the reports. He's like, "Yeah, there's nothing wrong with you." And it was so devastating to me because I just thought the pitta part of my mind was like, just tell me what's wrong and we'll go ahead and fix it. Because that seemed really logical to me. Like, okay, if there's a problem, great, just tell me. Not great, but fine, we'll deal with it and we can fix it. But when the medical community was like, well, there's nothing wrong with you, I knew there was something wrong with me. I was having a very different quality of living than I had my whole life previously. So I felt very, again, isolated and alone in that. But I had known a little bit about Ayurveda and sought out Ayurvedic study, and that's what took me to become an Ayurvedic practitioner. And then the last piece of my healing, so I was essentially ill for about 7 years. So it wasn't a quick overnight fix. And what I've realized, there's not a lot of things that are. Some things can be, but the final piece of my healing for me was the bioenergy healing. And that's a form of energy work that I do that I just love and adore because it works on the pranamaya kosha and works on the energy body. And essentially that's the blueprint of the physical body. So anything that happens physically to us, it's going to be in an energetic manifestation before it comes in through the physical. That can be very subtle as a thought, as a samskara. That can be very subtle imprint, but it will come through the physical after it's come through the energetic, and vice versa. There are a few exceptions to that, but that's essentially how so much dis-ease happens. So now I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner, a bioenergy healer, and I teach yoga teachers. I taught the yoga teacher training program at Langara College for 7 years and finished up teaching there last year to begin my own Ayurvedic yoga program for yoga teachers. So that's why I'm really stoked about specifically talking to yoga teachers, but of course everybody. I've seen so many yoga teachers burn out, not living what they're preaching and teaching and speaking, and I think that is so irresponsible. And yes, I've been there also in my life, and I'm not anymore. I've made adjustments and I've changed things. I've had to say no to a lot of things. I've had to give up things, whether that's money, time, energy, to make sure that I'm in full alignment with what I'm doing. And if I get out of alignment, because we all do, then I'm going to bring myself back. I'm going to do whatever it takes, whoever I have to invest in to see to help support me come back into that center so that I can serve from a place of integrity. So it's not about being perfect, and it's not about, if we don't have life going on, we can't be a yoga teacher or a healer or serve in that way. But we have to learn and have the tools how to get back to center pretty darn quick. Otherwise, maybe we need to take a little sabbatical or a little hiatus from teaching or serving. Or sometimes we can use those moments as our teaching moments too. Doesn't mean we have to step away from teaching. We can bring that into our teaching as part of how we kind of grow together as a community as well. So by the end of our time together this evening, these are the things that I thought we would talk about. The number one reason why teachers burn out, and I've been there for sure, and how to avoid that. If you haven't been there, I would love for you not to have to go down that road. How to dissolve fear and anxiety around not feeling good enough. And that's a big one, and I think one that we don't talk about because we're supposed to be confident and stand at the front of the room, and but that's a big samskara, a deep impression there. I would love to share with you some ancient Ayurvedic techniques to elevate your health and vitality so you can have a sustainable teaching career. Some of you might be fresh out of the gate and very new to teaching. Some of you may have been teaching for 20 years and have also experienced the ebb and flow of teaching. But I would love to share some of the Ayurvedic techniques that are simple, that are doable, that you can incorporate into your life. And then also how to stay inspired and creative and current to your own truth. And that's really key, is staying current. So what you taught or how you felt or what you spoke 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 2 months ago, 2 days ago may not be your current truth. So we have to stay current with who we are in our teaching and honor that we are changing. And this can be scary and feel like tumultuous waters as we begin to shift and expand in our own consciousness, because it's like, oh gosh, I don't feel like I want to teach that anymore. And as we transition into teaching different things, it's almost like that expansion contraction. So as soon as we expand them, often there's that contraction right after. So we're going through that ebb and flow, which can be pretty scary if we don't understand what's happening or don't have a guide or a mentor in that. So these are essential tools that I feel to take your yoga teaching to the next level. And it's truly not about having more information. It's definitely more on the other side of unwinding information. It's not about getting more knowledge. It's really about embodiment. It's really about embodiment. And how can you embody the wisdom of yoga so that you don't move into that inferiority complex of feeling like, wow, I feel like a sham. I'm standing in front of the room talking about health and well-being, and I'm falling apart on any level, physically, mentally, or emotionally. So here's what I came to, and I thought about this for quite some while, about the number one reason why yoga teachers burn out. There's a lot of different reasons, but what I feel and what I brought it down to is priorities. That your priorities are going to lead you either towards health or towards burnout. And under that umbrella of priorities are what? Time, money, boundaries is a really big one for a lot of people that want to be of service, which is you. So the yoga teachers that come, we want to help, we want to give, we want to be of service. And if we do not have a clear understanding of boundaries, whether that is what we will or will not teach, what we're willing to do, what we will or will not, are not willing to be paid. I spent so much of my adult life really scrambling for, biking all around the city. This is years ago now, but I would get on my pedal bike, didn't have a car. I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, pedal downtown, teach a yoga class, pedal another 45 minutes to another yoga studio across town, teach another yoga class, pedal all the way back home, another 45 minutes. By the end of the day, getting home at 9 p.m., maybe to have made $70 that day. And started wearing out my knees. So there's different phases and stages of our teaching career, of our life, of what stage of life we're in also. And you need to just know for you what is working. And for me at that time, that was all I knew. And I was a yes girl. So I was saying yes to everything. And for me, through life experience and through maturity and growing older and hopefully a little bit more wise, learning to say no to things that don't work. And that was really difficult. And I don't know if you can relate or if that resonates with you, but having to disappoint people or having to say no to things that are really not in alignment anymore. And the last time I did that in a very difficult way was after teaching at Langara College for 7 years in their teacher training program. It was completely out of alignment by the last year there. And that was hard to let go of because it seemed like a very good position to have in the college. I'd been teaching it for so long, and there was some disrespectful and, quite frankly, abusive behavior that was happening, that I had to actually step up and take myself out of that environment to align myself with my own self-respect and integrity. So it's not always easy to do that. We have to make some hard decisions sometimes. So how do we counter stress of yoga teaching, which sounds so ironic, but if you've been teaching yoga for a while, you will know what I'm talking about. And how do we prioritize? From what I've seen from an Ayurvedic practitioner point of view, it comes down to self-care. Self-care is not, I'm not talking about going for a manicure every 3 months. I'm not talking about getting a massage once in a while. Those things are amazing, and I totally support people doing them. But self-care is really our moment-to-moment awareness of our mental and emotional states. That's the highest form of self-care that we can have, because we're constantly needing to mind and take care of ourselves. And how are we energetically? How are we physically in our being? So the first step is saying no to opportunities that aren't fully aligned, and noticing when you're coming from a fear-based place in your decision making. And this can go for any aspect of life, not just yoga teaching. This is across the board. The other aspect of deep self-care is sankalpa. From a yogic perspective, we talk about sankalpa as being our resolution, our intention. We often use that in a yoga nidra practice at the beginning to plant that seed deep into the subconscious. And when we live intentionally, then we have a lot more clarity, because no one's intending to wake up and have a crappy day, but we'll often go down that pathway because we're not clearly setting intention. So with sankalpa, I suggest just how we did at the beginning of this call. It's one word. How do you want to feel? Choose something in your life that matters to you. Work with the same sankalpa for a while. It always needs to be in positive languaging, short, and you repeat this sankalpa when you wake up in the morning, as you're driving your car, as you're washing the dishes, so that the sankalpa begins to resonate at a cellular level. And it can't be from the mind space. It can't just be a repetition, da 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 da. It has to be something that we really are craving, are inspired to feel more of in our life, where we connect to our heart, essentially, so that we activate the energy behind the desire, behind what we're truly seeking in our life. So that's the sankalpa. And then the other aspect of not burning out is personal sadhana. And I'm always shocked. Well, maybe I'm not, but I'm always a little bit shocked and surprised when I talk to colleagues and friends who are teachers that don't have a daily practice. And I always say in my teacher trainings is that if you're teaching yoga, you need a daily practice. I'm not talking about doing 2 hours of asana every day. Your sadhana may be 10 minutes of meditation. Your sadhana might be 20 minutes of asana. It might be 25 minutes of japa practice. It might be kriyas. It might be karma yoga, but there has to be a daily sadhana that is consistent, that is your anchor, and that is also your gauge, in a way, of how you are. So if we're doing something different every day, it's hard to get a sense of where we're at. With the consistency of your sadhana, of a practice that you come to every day or as often as you can, then you start to see yourself. That acts as the mirror of like, oh, here I am. This is where I'm at. And then within the sadhana, we use the tools of Ayurveda and yoga to tweak. Today I'm feeling high anxiety. Okay, I need to do more Nadi Shodhan. I need to do more forward folds. I need to do Yoga Nidra this afternoon. So as we become more mindful of self, of swadhyaya, that self-study, we can look internally and really see, oh, today I'm a little bit off. Okay, well, what do I need to balance that? Instead of just getting caught up in life and kind of spinning out of control. So prevention, essentially, for not burning out, not waiting till it's too late. And I definitely did that in my career. I didn't know, I didn't have the resources. I didn't understand. I didn't have a mentor or a guide or anybody that could help me in that. So especially for you young, lovely young teachers out there, of really just considering that, okay, how can I make this sadhana sustainable, and how can I make my teaching career sustainable? Maybe that means teaching less. Maybe that means charging a little bit more. Maybe that means taking a holiday. I don't know what it is for you, but think about the bigger picture so that you don't just burn out quickly. I've been climbing the Grouse Grind. I'm training for a mountaineering expedition at the end of this month. And the Grouse Grind, for those of you who don't know, it's a steep, essentially stairs up the side of a mountain. And at the bottom on their little notice board, it says, be a tortoise, not a hare. So like really that slow and steady wins the race. And we can so often, especially with social media and seeing what everyone else is doing on a superficial level, feel like we have to race to the top of I don't know what. But that is a surefire way to definitely burn out and just be unhappy or feel stressed. And we need to be the example, the best that we can as teachers and leaders in our community. So the second point, talking about ancient Ayurvedic techniques, there's two things that I want to discuss a little bit. And of course, we could spend weeks talking about all of these things, and I would love to do that with you guys, but we just don't have the time. However, planting the seed with you today, I hope you will take at least one thing from our call this evening, like one item or one thought or one practice that really goes, I'm going to try that and do it. So the first Ayurvedic dinacharya practice, dinacharya just means daily routine. And one of these practices that can be very life-changing, and like all of this stuff, it's only life-changing if you do it, not if you know about it, but if you practice it, is the Abhyanga, which is self-oil massage. Now, this practice does a lot of different things. The oil massage onto your skin acts as a protective layer. It strengthens your aura, so it's almost like you're creating this beautiful protective layer. The word for oil in Sanskrit is sneha, which also means self-love. So as you're massaging this oil into your skin, it's a form of self-love. The oils are penetrating into the various dhatus or tissues of the body, and it has medicinal property. It's not just like, it's not moisturizer, it's actually going down into the tissue layers and providing health benefits. So if you're more of a fiery type, a pitta type, and you tend to be hot or have hot flashes, you feel kind of wound up or aggressive or impatient, then you can use coconut oil. This is more cooling in effect. If you're more light, airy, get anxious, stressed out very easily, thinner bones, more on the lighter side of things, sesame oil is warming. And so these vata types, these air and ether types, tend to be more cool. So the sesame oil is warming and also more grounding. And then if you're more kapha, if you're more of that earth and water, so muddy, slow, kind of maybe clammy, damp, cool feeling, tend to hold on to weight more than the other doshas. If you feel like you have more kapha, that slow sluggishness in your constitution, then you can use a more lighter oil like sunflower oil. And remember, you can combine those oils too. So maybe you use 40% sesame and 60% coconut. Might even want to throw in some lavender essential oil or different oils specific to the constitution, to the dosha, is also very nice. I usually just use plain oils, or sometimes I even get the medicated oils from a company called Banyan Botanicals that I like, because there's herbs infused into those oils. And so it just gives that much more power. So sometimes I'll use their Vata massage oil and I'll rub that on the soles of my feet at night. This helps to draw the prana down so it's not all up here, and helps with deeper sleep. So oftentimes Vata types will have more delicate nervous system and more challenged sleeping. So rubbing the oil on the soles of the feet, very good for helping you sleep better. So oil massage, great sadhana practice. For the ladies, you don't do this on your menstrual cycle, but you can do it any other day. And that's simply because the menstrual cycle, we're detoxifying. We're focusing on that apana vayu, that downward moving force, and we're detoxifying. And the Abhyanga massage is more of a building practice where we're strengthening, we're tonifying. So it's great to do any other day of the month, and I encourage it. There's a couple cheats that I have with that. So typically I would say to clients, like, massage the oil into your skin and in the opposite direction that the hair follicles grow, and wait 10, 20 minutes before you get in the bath or the shower. So you do this before your shower. And then what happens, the warmth of the bath or shower opens the pores, so the oil gets drawn into the body. Instead of waiting till you get out of the shower and just rubbing it on the surface of the skin, we want that oil to penetrate and go down. So we do it before, so that the heat draws the oil into the body, and then you're good to go. If you're like, I just don't have time for that, I'm too busy, which is often the case, you can even do your oil massage in the shower. Not ideal, but still better than nothing. So you can just lather it up while you're in the water, while you're in the shower, and get that on there. Other things that you can do if you're having a bath, just pour some oil into the bath. So be careful, though, it gets really slippery. So you just need to manage that. And sometimes just have a separate towel, maybe like an oil towel, because it will start to kind of stain the towel and get rancid over time. So don't use your best things for the oil massage. The other thing that is so important as yoga teachers for a long and sustainable career, or just life in general, whether you stop teaching yoga tomorrow, it doesn't matter. But what you need to know is how to eat and live according to your dosha, according to your Ayurvedic constitution. I look back on this now and I wonder, how did I even get by before without knowing this? And how do other people live this life without understanding their constitution? Because it really is the guiding force for me in my life of what and when and how to eat, to sleep, to do everything essentially. And that might sound a little bit strange, and it does become more organic. So I'm not thinking anymore about, which foods. It's over time becomes just such an intuitive process. And then you get into like the Ayurveda mastery level of it's all intuitive. It's all about resonance with your body. So instead of going to someone and being like, what vitamin should I take? You ask your body. You develop a relationship. But that's taken me years to get to that point of developing that relationship where my body is guiding me and telling me about what it needs to eat and when and how and all of that. But which I feel is essentially the essence of what Ayurveda is, listening to our body and understanding how to be in rhythm with our own nature. And unfortunately, we've become so disconnected from the food even that we eat, from the daily rhythms, from the seasonal rhythms, from the rhythms of aging. All of these things we've disconnected from, a lot of because of technology, because we have electricity and can stay up all night, all of these things which are wonderful, but take a lot more awareness, sensitivity, and subtlety to come back into, really listening, what do I need? And when we're out of balance, unfortunately, we crave things that keep us out of balance. And this is where working with a practitioner can be very useful to help guide you when you can't see for yourself where you're at. And most of us can't because we're in it. We're right up against ourselves. So it's hard to see ourselves, or even if we can, it's hard to get over the humps of the challenges or the obstacles that are in our way from feeling really great. Otherwise, we would have done it already. So it's not that we don't know the information, it's that it's very difficult to implement a new habit, a new way of being. And that's where working with a practitioner that you trust can really help move that along. So understanding your constitution is going to guide you in the 6 tastes that you need more of. What foods are important for you to be eating or not eating, the time of day that's going to be best for you to go to sleep. And without this, I think sooner or later we come up against health issues, which in a way is beautiful because it guides us back to listening deeper and coming more into balance. So hopefully that makes sense. And again, if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat, and I'm going to open up the lines at the end for any of you that have questions, and we can discuss any of these topics further. I get a lot of people that ask me or email me, and they'll be like, where can I study Ayurveda? And if that's something that you are interested in, I have some options that I'll tell you at the end of our class today. One is an online program you can do from anywhere, and the other is the in-person teacher training program as well. And so I can tell you a little bit more about those if you're interested in going deeper in Ayurveda or teaching Ayurveda to your students. So the third point is how to stay inspired, creative, and current to your own truth in your teaching. For so long, like years, maybe a decade or more, I was so internally focused on yoga. My friends were all yogis. We all did kirtan and chanted the Mahamrityunjay on Friday nights. We ate khichdi. Like, it was so inner yogic, which was fine. But I look back on that and I think it was so out of balance, to be honest. And I lost friends. I lost other friends I think thought I was weird or just couldn't connect with. And it created more distance than connection and communion and union. But we have to go through these things, right? So now, where I stand in my life now is that I have my own personal sadhana. That's my morning practice. I call it geriatric yoga. Like, it's really just what I need to get into my body to feel good. And I'm sourcing more of my creative outlets from painting, I'm doing a mountaineering expedition in a few weeks, from things that ignite me and excite me. Because I got to the place with my yoga practice that it became kind of flat and boring, to be honest, to be completely transparent. Like, I don't want to do another warrior two. I don't want to just stand here and, like, it became very linear, very rigid. It's a very masculine form of moving the body. And I got to the point where I was like, I want to move. I need circles. I need rhythm. I need flow. And yoga is very masculine in its expression. So what is so important is to do things other than yoga. And maybe you guys are way more balanced than me and you're like, oh, well, we do. We ride our bike or we play with our kids or we knit or anything. So whether it's Nia or kickboxing or calligraphy classes, but doing things beyond just yoga, and even for our exercise. So think of more like cross training. So yoga to me is an attitude. It's not asana. So I don't equate yoga with, these practices that we do on our mat. My life, I feel, is my expression of my yoga practice. My moment-to-moment awareness of what's happening internally and externally is my yoga practice. So the asana is like, this is how much this means to me. And I deeply appreciate and respect the asana practice, but it's overemphasized in our culture and in our teaching. You think of the classes you teach, how much time do you actually spend on the asana portion? How much time do you spend meditation practice in your teaching? Pranayama. And I hope that you're teaching pranayama in your class. So many classes just skip it. Shavasana, often an afterthought, or you get the last 3 minutes and then everyone's down and up. So our yoga teaching has become distorted and we're overemphasizing the physical. And I think part of our responsibility, if we choose, if it feels right for us, and I think this is what happens as we mature and see, like, we can't just be jumping around. I've talked to so many colleagues who are injured after years of teaching yoga. They've hurt their bodies. They have adrenal fatigue. Like, this is not okay. We can't continue as a community supporting this. And it has to start with us as individuals of saying no and recognizing that we're hurting ourselves and it's not okay. And it breaks my heart to see that that's what has happened. But I think we're at a turning point in the yoga world where people are either waking up to that too and going, yeah, I've been injured, or I'm burning out, or I just don't know where I fit in this whole swamp of an industry now. So do other things other than yoga to keep you connected. Be in nature. Go into nature. She heals us. Put your feet in the grass. Put your feet in the ocean. Whatever it takes to remember where we came from. We are nature. So make that as part of your sadhana, especially if you live in a city. I live in a city. It's a beautiful city, but it's still a city nonetheless. And I can feel the vibration of the city with my nervous system has an impact. So to go into nature is a sadhana, and it's a spiritual practice. So I highly encourage that you bring that in, or just spend more time figuring out how you can do that as well. And then the last thing, again, it sounds so cliche, but it's like, are we doing it? We know about it, but to get still and quiet. Opposed to the tendency of the ego, of the manas, to want to learn more. Oh, I need to do more teacher trainings. I need to study more. I need to learn more. That might be exactly where you're at, and that might be exactly appropriate for where you're at in your life. But just ask yourself, where is the motivation of this coming from? Is this a time to go out and seek and absorb knowledge, or is this a time to digest it? Because so often we do trainings or study, but we haven't had the time to assimilate or digest it, and then we just get indigestion. And we haven't gained anything other than, oh, I have one more certificate to put on my wall or to put in my bio. So I really encourage you to ask yourself what the motivation is for you when you're doing one more thing. Whether that's one more book, one more this. Is it just a distraction that takes you actually further away from facing yourself, from being honest with yourself? Because we can do that. We can use spirituality as the greatest distraction on the planet. And that's where that ego gets really sneaky in that. Excuse me. Okay. And the last point that I would love to touch upon is about not feeling good enough. The number of clients that I've worked with over the years, the number of students I've seen, the number of other teachers that I've spoken with in discussion, there is a seed in almost everyone that I've met, some version of I'm not enough, not good enough, I'm not deserving, I don't have enough. So I invite you to inquire within yourself where that seed is. And if you're like, no, I'm done. I've done my work on that, right? We think, oh, I've addressed that. If so, wonderful, go share the light. If not, this is the seed that we need to digest in a way. We need to swallow it instead of stuffing it further and further and further away. And this is the beauty when we start to evoke the shadow side. When we start to call upon the depths of who we are in our entirety, not just our spiritual yoga teacher face and voice and position, but where is the anger? Where is the resentment? Where is the depression? Where is any thread, any residue of what takes you out of your life? And it's not about pushing that away. I really feel it's about embracing those fragmented aspects of ourselves and loving them so deeply. And it sounds counterintuitive, but I found this is the only way to heal, is not by just ignoring those things, but by being like, yeah, this is here. And then our relationship to it changes. Maybe we're always going to have that little taint of, I'm not good enough, but our relationship changes to that. So these days, if that rears its head for me, I can see it. And it doesn't take me out. I can just go, oh, there you are, old friend. Like, I see you. And just that acknowledgement of, oh, I see you. I see that hurt part, that part that wanted to be seen, recognized, whatever. And whatever it is for you. But until we do that work and have that awareness and the loving aspect, it's like the whole fuck cancer thing. No, that's the wrong way. We shouldn't be having campaigns to fuck cancer and to like push things away from a state of fear, because that keeps us trapped in the cycle. So I feel it's completely the opposite that we need to do. We need to embrace the cancer, the depression, the whatever. And I'm not talking about being swallowed by it. I'm talking about owning our wholeness, and that is healing. That is how we are healed. Cured is a different thing, but healed, anybody can heal on a spiritual level, on a mental, emotional level. Physically, maybe some things cannot be cured, but healing is very different. And this all ties into how we show up as teachers and how we show up in our life, in our relationships, in our relationship to partners, to money, to students, to everything. So how we dissolve this fear is by facing it. That might mean getting the support of a counselor, a teacher, a friend, but we have to do that work. I think that's really how we live more fully in our life. And then some other ways to dissolve that fear of not good enough that might be simpler that we can put into action right now is to get off of the comparison wheel, especially when it comes to social media and the hype that we can, or I definitely can, and I'm guessing I'm not alone in this, get caught up in or pulled out of my center because of, and it comes from that comparing and a projection of, oh, this person is here and I'm here, or however we in our own ego minds want to put someone above or below. That's completely ego. And social media can be really beautiful for bringing people together and for sharing positive messages. And it can also be, if we let it, something that eats away at us and something that is a real time energy drain as well. And then the last point that I'd love to speak to is finding your own way to connect to the divine and knowing whenever you feel fear, anxiety, judgment, anger, resentment, blame, it's simply that you've disconnected from source. Because when you're connected to source, that's not in your consciousness. So it's the wake-up call. It's the red light going off when we feel anger, resentment, any of these things. They're not bad. They're just like, hey, remember source. Remember you are whole. Remember you are divine now, not when you get perfect tomorrow, but now. And those are our wake-up calls to go, oh, I'm just disconnected. That's all. And then we go, how do I come back? How do I reconnect? And that's our work as a yoga teacher. I don't believe our work as a yoga teacher is to stand in front of a room. I believe that our work as a yoga teacher is all behind the scenes. Sure, we show up for our students and we stand in front of the room and we teach what we know, but our real work is, what are we doing when we're not standing up in front of the students? I was talking to a lovely woman yesterday who's a healer and a yoga teacher, and she said, it's fine for that hour. I can kind of be present and be there, but beyond that, there's a lot that isn't integrated yet, that hasn't crystallized, because it's like, oh, we can show up, I'm yoga teacher now, I can do this, but then we walk out of that yoga studio and back into our life and everything crumbles. So this is the integration and the embodiment that is so essential as yoga teachers. So in this moment, just reflect on how you connect to source, the divine, God, whatever word you want to call. What takes you out? What disconnects you? And then what tools do you have to come back to? So we spoke about some tools this evening, whether that's the sankalpa, saying no to opportunities, to things, setting boundaries, so prioritizing where your energy is going to go, your daily sadhana, oil massage, eating, sleeping according to your constitutional type, your Ayurvedic dosha, doing other things other than just yoga all the time, so things that keep you inspired, that connect you to your creativity, be in nature, get into nature, be still and quiet, get off social media, acknowledge whatever it is for you, and the seed of not enoughness, if that's there, it might be spoken a little bit differently. You might have different words for it. And then connecting. How do you connect with the divine? So it's a lot, right? It's a lot to consider, and it will change in your life. It will change as you grow older, as different situations and circumstances happen in your life. And allowing that change to occur and be current with your truth. Not yesterday's, not last week's, not last year's, but right now. What is real? What is your heart calling forth? What is your soul asking of you to move into? And it will probably be the uncomfortable places. And if it's not, you may not be going in the right direction. Not that it always has to be hard, but there's going to be, when we get to our edge of comfort, it's going to feel a little bit like a stretch. And that's great. It's going to feel a little bit unknown because we haven't been there before. And that's exactly where we want to go, to the place we have not been. That's this. And then we so often go back into the comfort of the known place. And this is the dance of life, right? That expansion and contraction. So this is what I think of a lot of the time. This is what I feel in my heart these days, and to share with you. And I'm deeply appreciative for you coming this evening, and will open up the lines in a moment if you have a question. Or actually, I think you can unmute yourselves. You have a function to be able to do that. And just before we jump into some Q&A, I'd love to share with you how you can learn more if you want to. So I have an online Ayurveda for Real Life program, and this is a fabulous program that the modules are given, are spoken, are offered in a way that you can hear them and digest them. So I really made this program usable, user-friendly, and understandable for you. And if that's something that you want to begin and dive into, then awesome. The other thing is my Ayurvedic yoga teacher training that is in Vancouver this time round, coming up September 16th to 18th and October 14th to 16th. So I still have spaces available for that if you're interested in taking your teaching to the next level and learning more about how to bring Ayurveda into your life, into your teaching, into your one-on-one student sessions as well. So here's what I would love to offer you as a thank you for showing up, for listening, for joining in on this class this evening. If you would love to be part of the Ayurvedic Yoga Teacher Training, then I will gift you the prerequisite course, which is the online program, Ayurveda for Real Life. That will be completely my gift to you when you register by August 15th. And that has a $347 value to that program. So you're going to save $347 off of your teacher training when you register by August 15th. For those of you who don't or can't come to Vancouver or don't want to, but are still want to learn more and stay connected, and this can also go towards a teacher training if you do that with me in the future, is if you would like to take the Ayurveda for Real Life, the online program, then I would like to offer you a 50% off when you purchase that program by August 15th. And the coupon code is webinar. So the coupon code for 50% off is webinar, and I'll send that information to you in an email, but you need to sign up for the program by August 15th. So those are just some ways that you can work together. Also, if you're wanting Ayurvedic consultations and just working one-on-one, then that's available too. So I would love to hear from any of you, answer any of your questions, or even if you just have thoughts about what I spoke of this evening or comments, then please, you can either type in the chat like this is how I type, one finger at a time, or you can just unmute your microphone and speak up. And don't be shy, there's no silly questions, and honestly, I would love to hear from you and have this more interactive than just me speaking one way towards you as well. So just unmute yourself and introduce yourself, and then you can let us know your question or your comment. And if not, I'll have to start telling jokes, which could get really messy. I don't know any, but I'll have to learn some. So any questions, any comments? How are you feeling in your own yoga teaching these days? Like, have you gone through phases of burnout or struggle or doubt or fear? And if so, how do you work with that? What do you do? Everyone's shy. All right, and if there are no comments or questions or feedback, then we can definitely jump off the call. I just want to make sure that if you have something burning inside, you'd like to say that you have this opportunity.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Maduri.
Hi, who's that?
Lisa Montesi.
Oh, hi, Lisa. How lovely. Thanks for joining us.
Sorry I was late.
Okay.
Maybe I can hear it after
Yes.
what I missed. I have something. I'm sort of wondering about how much I call it fix people, which is not really what I want to be doing, or to help them find their alignment, or just to let them have their practice and do what makes them feel good. So I'm kind of working with that, thinking maybe I shouldn't even bother them, just let them be,
Are you speaking more specifically to asana particularly?
Yeah, I'm speaking about like a flow type of class. The rest, I don't give people any kind of assistance with that, but because I have my own ideas based on my own practice and what I've been doing of what is, I guess, the right way, but perhaps, I'm not right. So right?
That's a great question and great topic of discussion. And here's just my personal opinion on that, which comes through a bunch of different experiences. I think if it's a safety thing, like if someone's knee's pointing the wrong direction, if there's definitely an alignment thing that you can see, and you'll know from the level of your student, more beginner students need more interaction. Hands-on adjustments are a bit of a delicate thing because especially in a drop-in basis where we don't have a deep understanding of that person's health history, maybe there's abuse in their history, maybe like we just don't know the story that we carry in the fascia, that we carry in the cells, that this body is and that this being is. And people are very complex and rich and sensitive. And my personal take on it more now is to allow people, unless it's an anatomical thing and they're really structurally like injuring themselves or out of it, is to allow people to feel and to start directing their awareness, the students' awareness, to more and more subtle levels of being so that they can feel it for themselves. Now, it might take them longer to get there, but when we can step outside of our idea of how it should be or how we want them to be, or like, why can't you just do it like this? When we can really step out of that and know that if we allow them the experience of finding it in their own body, in their own time, I think there's a lot of grace to that. I think there's a lot of, on a deeper level, on a symbolic level, on a real energetic level, of allowing everything to be okay as it is now. And letting the unraveling and the unfolding of a body, because our bodies are tight in different areas for particular reasons. The body's holding in different areas because it's protecting and it needs to. So if we rush that for a student, we can either be harming sometimes, even injuring sometimes, or doing a disservice because we're interrupting the natural flow, the natural process. That's just how I feel. I also had a very revered teacher of teachers manipulate my body and injure my knee and in a very shocking way. So that experience for me years ago made me go, you know what? That's a woman who's been teaching teachers for 30 years. That's irresponsible. And if I never want to hurt somebody like that, I never actually want to manipulate someone's body and hurt them and injure them so badly. Like that is, that's my worst nightmare. So that's just my feeling of letting our practice have more space and be less about getting it right than about interfering. But does that?
I agree with you on the not touching part. What I would like to help people to do is to not strive so hard. Yeah. Because that's what I'm trying to relax, soften, relax, and it's actually hard to get people to relax. They're kind of hanging out in that pose and holding on. He's like,
yeah,
relax a little bit more. Can we soften? That's all, right? So, and maybe telling people to relax makes it worse.
Sometimes, right? Because people think, well, I'm relaxed. What are you talking about? But and this is the beauty of a yoga teacher, and especially if you have that ability to work with students for long term, I see everything now through the eyes of the nervous system and looking at people's nervous systems. And then looking at Vata, Pitta, Kapha types through the Ayurvedic paradigm of seeing, oh, this is what this person needs, may need, we don't know, right? But this is what this person may need. And with the insight of Ayurveda, it seems like I can hone in more accurately with that knowledge or with that wisdom. Whether that's just understanding kind of different personalities, like some people need more connection, some people need more space. And that has a lot to do with their Ayurvedic Prakruti and Vikruti.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, I think that's such a great question, and it is so individual. I've also had some really great adjustments in my life, but I get a little bit I have some lovely friends who are like, oh, well, in Shavasana, I want to like massage people's shoulders and this and that. And I think, don't rob them of their experience. If they want to go for a massage, great, like go for a massage. But I feel, and maybe this is more my traditional roots coming in, like let people have space to have whatever experience they're having and go through whatever they're going through. Not think, oh, if I just massage their shoulders, it's going to be better for them. Yes, that may be true. And we don't know. So I personally just like to give a lot of space for people to explore and be in their own body and use verbal cues. Sometimes I might do gentle hands-on adjustments or just like a tap of a finger somewhere, like so subtle, but hopefully that connects energetically and on a deeper level. But I'm more in the school of like, let people be. There's nothing wrong unless, of course, they're going to injure themselves. Then I definitely would go over and assist people and make sure that they're not going to bung up their knee or their hip or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for stepping forward. Beautiful question. Is there anybody else that has any comments, questions? I really love hearing just from the community, like Lisa's been teaching for many years, and it's so nice to have these discussions, because even those of us who have been teaching for a long time, I think sometimes there's doubt, or we don't know, or like, how do you do it? And how do you do it? And how does it look for you? And we can really learn and grow from each other. A question's come through in the chat. Love to take the course, but I have too much time constraints. I'm wondering what the online course offers is the same as what you do in the classroom setting in Vancouver. No, not at all. The online course is a course unto itself. It's called Ayurveda for Real Life, and it's 7 modules, and it takes you essentially through a foundational understanding and knowledge of Ayurveda that gives you enough to go and start bringing that into your life. We talk about food. We talk about which postures are good for the different doshas. I even talk about aromatherapy, gem therapy. I talk about the 3 stages of disease. So it's an overview of Ayurveda to get you moving in that direction. But that's the prerequisite course for the in-person training, mostly because we have limited time in person. It's essentially 6 days together. So when we come together in the classroom for the teacher training, we can dive right in. We don't have to go back to the basics of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. We don't have to go back to the basics of things, but we can dive right into a deeper layer where we look at the srotas, we look at the dhatus, we look at more subtle aspects of Ayurveda than just the basics. So for me, the beauty of technology there is that we can save time so that the in-person work that we do together is very experiential. And a lot of the program, to be completely honest, is about the teacher and about that inner empowerment and inner mastery, both in your own personal life, and then also deepening and understanding how to integrate Ayurveda into the classroom, into your daily routine, so for your own health, and then also into one-on-one sessions with clients if you choose to work with students one-on-one. Some people do, some people don't. So the two are quite different. The online course, anyone can do that. It's not just for yoga teachers. It was created really to help anyone that's interested in Ayurveda. And the in-classroom portion is where we go deep. So that's a great question, and thanks for asking that. But quite different focuses. And I love the in-class stuff because there's nothing like being in person. And I was in Switzerland teaching the training in April and just had the most gorgeous group of people there. These students, well, who are all teachers, they're just incredible. And it re-inspires me because there's nothing like that human connection and how we can really go deep into things in that way. So, yeah. Any other questions, comments? Please unmute yourself if you do. And if not, we'll wrap up. I know we've gone a few minutes over time, and I apologize. And thanks for hanging on the line with us. I will send this out. And if you have any other questions or want to connect with me, you can email me at madhuriayurvedayoga@gmail.com. And if you sign up for this call, then you will get the email with the recording and then also with the information with the coupon code webinar that you can sign up for the online course for 50% off until August 15th if that interests you. And if you're wanting to do the teacher training coming up in September, then send me an email. I would love to see you in person. We've got an incredible group of teachers joining for this one, some very powerful teachers, some long-term teachers, and it's just the bar is like upping, where we're coming together with some really amazing teachers from our community to study together. So thank you so much, and I am so glad that you came and shared this time together. So much love to you all, and have a beautiful evening, and namaste. Thank you.